Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. OPEC Plus has just announced a new production increase for August and September. This is a surprise move that was not expected by the market. OPEC Plus has decided to raise oil output by 548,000 barrels per day next month, almost double the amount they were previously planning to add to the market. According to the sources in early June, 1 barrel of oil was trading for $76. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries aims to ensure that there is enough oil in the markets at stable prices. So the total increase would be 648,000 barrels by the end of September. But at the same time, they need to compensate for countries that are not abiding by the rules and are increasing production and setting goals. The actual production numbers may differ because the world's biggest producers do not always agree. At the time, they said that they will add 100,000 barrels per day to the markets in August. So now they are just bringing forward planned increases. So when oil prices are high, people working in these countries receive higher compensation. Higher oil prices are seen as a way to do that. It's believed that if oil stays too low for too long, it will discourage investments into the country's energy industry. And when oil prices drop as they are now, people's salaries decline. The market was expecting a much smaller increase. This decision will have a negative impact on the price of oil. It could contribute to prices dropping below $70 per barrel. There is a lot of uncertainty about the global economy and oil demand. The rate of consumption is expected to decline as economic growth slows down. That is why OPEC wants to make sure that there will be enough oil in the markets to meet the future demand. That makes it harder for citizens of these countries to afford imports, and that drives inflation up, which causes social issues. This is one of the reasons why OPEC is trying to stabilize the price of oil above 80 per barrel. They want to make sure that their economies remain stable. Basically, they want to catch up on what they had planned to do in the coming months and add it all in a couple of weeks. The news of the production increase is weighing on oil prices. As I mentioned earlier, the price briefly rose, but that may be only because earlier in the day, the price of oil dropped below $72. I will provide more details below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. And if you learned something new today, please share this video with your friends. Subscribe to my channel and I will see you in my new video tomorrow. Take care, and they also tend to act in their own self-interest first and foremost. For example, two of the largest producers, Saudi Arabia and Russia, compete directly with each other. So their interests may not always align. Even though they are coordinating production cuts and increases together, it doesn't mean that they will stick to the deal if it is no longer beneficial to them. For example, Russia said that they were considering extending their production cuts until the end of 2024, but now they are adding 148,000 barrels per day. That's a pretty significant increase. For example, the United States, which is the world's largest oil producer, has been exempted from production cuts. They were asked to cut 2 million barrels per day, but instead, according to Reuters, America only reduced 1 million barrels. Some economists expect that the global recession may be just around the corner. For example, Citigroup says that there is a 55% chance of a hard landing. What that means is that a recession could cause oil demand to fall sharply. And that's probably why OPEC is trying to add more oil to the markets now before demand falls. In addition to that, they are likely compensating for the overproduction that happened in the United States and Canada. Both countries experienced a sharp increase in oil production this year, while the US is exempt from production cuts. They don't really benefit from it either because they have to abide by environmental rules and export most of their production. Many of their oil fields are located in areas where shipping is challenging, so it's not like American producers can sell oil at higher prices. There are even reports that suggest that the country may soon be exempt from any production cuts and will not be required to reduce production at all. Of course, this is still subject to change, and depends on how the global economy as well as the demand for oil will evolve in the coming weeks. The markets were expecting a much smaller increase for August. Previously, OPEC Plus signaled that it may add 50,000 barrels per day, while the largest increase that was discussed was 100,000 barrels per day. Now they decided to increase production by 5 times more than they indicated previously. OPEC Plus is led by Saudi Arabia and Russia. They often coordinate their policies and production levels. For example, recently, both countries agreed to extend voluntary cuts that were previously put in place. Earlier in June, the kingdom extended its voluntary reduction by 1 month. It cut 1 million barrels per day and volunteered to reduce another 1 million barrels. On the other hand, Russia cut 300,000 barrels per day until the end of 2024. Now OPEC is adding those volumes back into the markets. Since then, the price went as high as $82 and then it started going down slowly but steadily. and today the price of oil reached the lowest point, $72 per barrel since January 2023. The price of oil actually stayed flat during July, which is something that is very rare in the energy markets. And now we see that there is a real potential for oil prices to continue moving lower. In this case, OPEC increasing production will put additional downward pressure on the prices. This decision was made during the OPEC Plus meeting on Wednesday, and it came as a surprise to the markets because most analysts expected them to make a smaller increase or to keep the production levels flat. OPEC Plus produces around 30% of the world's crude, and they have been tightening the supply this year in order to push prices higher. So far, their efforts have been somewhat limited by countries that are cheating on their quotas, including the world's biggest oil producer, the United States. Now Saudi Arabia and Russia are showing an example of countries that increased production despite the overall quota cuts. In this video, I will share all the details with you. It fell to the lowest level in over 6 months. Oil has been under pressure due to slowing global demand, especially from top importer China, which has been dealing with property sector woes. There's also a lot of uncertainty about the U.S. economy as well as rising interest rates globally. All of these factors resulted in lower consumption of oil. Plus, I will explain why the price of oil has been moving sideways since mid-June. If you're ready, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channels right now. Alright, let's get started. Oil prices rose slightly after the announcement of the production hike, but only because earlier in the day, the price of oil was down more than 3%. Let me share some interesting facts about the price of oil with you. OPEC Plus includes the world's biggest producers such as Saudi Arabia, Russia, the UAE, as well as other nations from around the world. According to the report, OPEC Plus is expected to increase production by another 100,000 barrels per day in September. Saudi Arabia, the leader of OPEC, wants to stabilize the markets and make sure that they won't go overboard and crash oil prices. It is very important to understand that while OPEC Plus is making these announcements, the decision to speed up planned output increases comes after the group decided last month to make larger cuts starting in May. There is a lot of uncertainty about the global economy and the future of oil demand. On the other hand, countries that are part of OPEC benefit from higher oil prices because they often have rules that link wages to the price of oil. In addition to that, Saudi Arabia, which is leading OPEC, wants to attract foreign investors. In conclusion, OPEC Plus decided to speed up the oil output hikes and add 548,000 barrels per day to the markets next month. If you enjoyed this video, you might also like my weekly newsletter that covers the most important events.